us back. We ended at the recommendation from the Chief Administration Officer for staff remuneration. So we have two motions there, and leave it up to council what they would like to approve. Okay, so that's the first one. The staff produced bylaw amendments for council remuneration bylaw 1905 to reflect a mayoral remuneration of $58,275 and council amount of $26,371. And that the yearly inflationary adjustments have a weighting of 90% from changes in the basket of communities contained within the bylaw and 10% from BC Consumer Price Index changes, and that all changes become effective in 2023 after the next set of municipal elections. So we have a mover, seconder. Okay, for discussion, Councillor Grant.
And I'm just wondering if you can explain, like, I've been speaking English my whole life and I have no idea what that says.
You're talking about the second
yearly
paragraph.
Inflationary adjustment has a, I don't know what that even means.
Yeah, CIO, please.
Thanks. So right now your remuneration changes, 50% of it's based on the changes of the municipalities that are within the policy, and 50% of the changes based on the consumer price index. So the reason that council moved forward and did that was so that you wouldn't have to often come back and look at your salary, because you should be tracking with other municipalities. But what's happened, because there's been an industry shift in levels of compensation, because only 50% of your change is recognized from that industry level shift, you've fallen out of sync with what's happening across those municipalities. So if you heavily weight your basket towards what's happening in those municipalities, you'll be much more likely to keep up with what's happening in industry trends. Now, what's going to happen for the most part of those municipalities are going to only change from inflationary changes now anyway. So if they're changing from inflationary changes, you'll capture that in that 90% plus the 10% from regular inflation. And if there's an industry shift, you're going to capture that as well under that 90%. So if you don't want to have to look at this for, another term or two terms, you're going to be much more likely to have been successful in keeping up with the changes in industry by weighting it more heavily from that basket than if you just weight it from inflationary changes. Did that help at all?
A little bit, yeah.
So to simplify it even more, it's going to pay your increases to the other communities rather than the CPI. So if they change, you change.
Okay, Councillor Bissinger.
Sure, thank you. And I like that second part of the motion because it allows us to kind of not do anything for the next, 4 years or two terms or whatever it might be. But I just wanted to speak to the first motion. I agree that the mayoral remuneration should be increased. I don't know if that number should be 58, but it seems reasonable to me because it seems kind of like a full-time job anyway, or at least, kind of like a 30-hour week. And I think the average salary in Comox, let's call it 75 grand, or I think that's one of the censuses was at. So I think that makes sense to me. I think the council amount, like I'm comfortable with what we're making now, and I'm not sure what it would look like to keep it at what we are currently making, and then having that second piece to it so that it does increase with, part of the CPI and part of the, adjustments from the basket communities going forward. So I don't know if we need to, if I can make an amendment to split it, or, I'll wait till other councillors speak to it. But that's kind of where I'm at, where mayor definitely, I think, needs to be remunerated more, because I know I see Mayor Arnott spending a lot of time, probably more than twice than I do, on council affairs, whether it be relations with the media, going to different events, being a speaker at different meetings or whatnot. So thanks.
Okay, Councillor Minions and then McGowan.
Yeah, I would support splitting those two into two different recommendations, just kind of looking at where we started 3 years ago going into the position and knowing the work that went into it. Councillor pay, if we did approve this new amount, would have gone up approximately 25 to 30%. And I just think with rising costs, I wouldn't support that large of a increase on the councillor role. However, knowing you know, what a chairperson goes into and the different things that they have to do, I would want to look at that separately. So I'm not sure if anyone else wants to separate those, but I would support what Councillor Bissinger said on that.
Councillor McGowan.
Thanks. You know, you can separate them, but I have no problem with the council amount. To make sure that we have proper diverse representation, we require remuneration that can allow that to happen. With current remuneration, people can't afford to run for council. They can't afford to live off of that. So it cuts out a lot of people that would love to put their hat in the ring, but you know, they can't survive off of that. And while you guys may not, you know, I sit on like 5 at least different boards that don't get paid, which is great. I'm not saying anything about that, and I'm glad that this is taking effect after the next election. But to make sure that we have that we are open and democratic about it, we need to make sure that everybody is able to step up to the table if they want to. And you know, this is the final year I'm not working this year. This is all that I'm doing, and I'm having on the record a very hard time meeting bills and making it. So you know, it's, I guess, rare to hear of a politician that lives paycheck to paycheck, but it still happens. It's an important thing to make sure that we keep moving forward, keep including people that deserve to have a voice as well.
Okay, thank you. So there was an amendment, just to be clear to me, to split this in half. What was that? I think Councillor Bissinger, you had mentioned that. So what
Yeah,
did you want to split? Because we had the recommendation, those 3 paragraphs were the one.
Sure, yeah, so it'd be, you know, one would be that staff produced bylaw amendments for council remuneration to reflect mayoral remuneration of 58,275. And then I would just split the council one as a second recommendation.
okay.
And then the third one would be the yearly inflation
So-
adjustments.
Councillor Grant, are you okay with that amendment?
Yeah, no,
Oh, CAO, he's trumping y'all.
Sorry, if the request is made to separate out a motion like that on 2 items which are not directly related, it doesn't go to a vote, it's just automatically done.
All right.
yeah, so I don't have any problem with that. I do think though that, you know, we had gone a long time at one point when I was here where we didn't take any increases, and then all of a sudden we had to whack it with a really big one. And so I think when you look at trying to keep up, I'm not sure what the right number is, but you don't want to fall too far behind, because then when catch up comes, it's a big number, and that's something the public doesn't like. So and I don't blame them. That's not the right way to do it. So I just keep that in mind as we talk about that.
Okay, Councillor Bissinger. Oh, sorry. I'll go with Swift first because she hasn't spoke yet. Then Bissinger.
I guess I'm comfortable with the way it's sitting currently. And I think it's important to remember, especially since we've been going through COVID, the role of a counselor can be quite a bit larger than we've experienced in this term, because normally you'd be going to a lot more events and those kinds of things. So suddenly your life becomes a lot busier. And so I'm happy with this. I'm happy that it takes place in the next term though, so that it doesn't look like we're giving ourselves a raise.
Okay, Councillor Bissinger.
Yeah, I guess just a comment to Councillor Grant's. I guess mentioning just that we're going to play catch up at some point, but I think that third item, or I guess how it's written out, that second item would take care of that. It would just automatically do those increases every year, you know, proportional to what's out there in the CPI. So I think, you know, we'll never have a huge catch up, but I don't know, I guess I was just looking at the calendar and we're looking at 26,000 over, you know, we have 28 meetings, so call it $1,000 a meeting. And, you know, I understand there's other committees and appointments that are unpaid, but, you know, the hourly rate I think is still fairly significant compared to what other jobs pay out there. So I don't know, like I had a hard time with this when we first had it brought on, and I had voted in favor, and then I was like, yeah, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have, but I think we all kind of went through that because we got scrutinized by the media quite a bit, but I think I would vote in favor of the mayor and vote against the council increase.
Okay, so see, you'll clarify that again. So we do not need a motion for the second part.
So right now, it's automatically been separated out. You're gonna
Okay.
vote on two different issues, one being the mayoral compensation. After that, you'll vote on the councillor compensation. So the mayoral compensation is on the floor right now and seconded up for debate.
Okay, so any further questions on the mayoral? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, and then we have the second one for the council remuneration of 26,371. So do I have a mover, seconder? Mover, second, okay, and for discussion. Councillor McGowan.
Thanks. I do understand that per meeting, it does seem like a large paycheck, but the amount of reading, research, preparation time, making sure that you appear well enough so that other people take you seriously and dress well enough, and all of that stuff takes money. And with what we get paid now, it is hard. And I don't expect anybody to necessarily fully understand that. But when you don't have that other job to fall back on, $26,000 or 20 or whatever we're getting now is not enough to live on. And I have been looking for a job for a very long time, and I haven't been able to get one because of my council schedule. And because people maybe don't feel comfortable hiring a municipal councillor, I don't know. But if we leave it how it is, we will be removing a lot of potential candidates for future council table members, possibly including myself. I mean, I don't know if I would do this job for the amount of stuff that we go through and emails and things that we get that, you know, for a spongy person like me, it's not all fun and games. And it, you know, people want to be here, but they can't afford it. So paying people less than their worth means that they're not going to be at the table, and you won't get their perspectives, and then not everybody in town will be represented. And that is not democratic in my mind. So that's about what I'll say there, I think.
Okay, any other questions, comments? You know, one of the things I will say is that the last year and a half that we've been in COVID, I have never been at so many meetings. And I think not in person, but virtual. It just seems that it's been so much easier to have a meeting and to have it virtually that it hasn't let up. And that's my schedule. I'm thinking it's pretty much the same as you folks too. And, you know, so, you know, I support Councillor McGowan, but any other further questions before we take the vote?
Yeah, I was just looking at this, and the difference for next year over what we had is about $1,585
Right,
a year.
yes.
So it's not a huge increase. You know, I've always thought that, you know, we earn our money. At least I don't know what the rest do, but I know I spend a lot of hours during the week doing things. And, you know, on Sunday I had a call from a lady that went all the way through till Monday, spent pretty much a whole day just dealing with one particular person. And, you know, then you call the Brooklyn streamkeeper guy, and, you know, there's a lot to do if you want it to do. So, you know, I've also thought over the years that sometimes if you paid more, then, you know, you sometimes can get more people to run. A lot of people don't run just because, you know, like Councillor McGowan, you know, if you paid councillors enough that they could live on it, then you could have better expectations for the outcomes, right? It would be my take. Now, I don't think we're ever going to go there, but I think that for $1,600 a year at county starting next year, not this year, so maybe we won't even get to enjoy that increase. I don't think it's a lot, to be honest with you. So I would concur with Councillor McGowan on this.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, so the motion is that the councillor remuneration of 26,371, all in favor? And opposed? Okay, 2 opposed, thank you. And And then we have the yearly inflationary adjustment, have a weighting of 90%. So did someone want to move that?
Moved. Second.
Okay, for discussion. Councillor Minions.
We may have discussed it before, but I'm just curious, was the basket of communities basically kind of location and population based, or what is the criteria, just to make sure that, you know, communities we chose are really reflective?
These are the communities that are within the bylaw already. It's the bylaw that I inherited. I'd have to look to somebody else to know why those communities were chosen.
Similar size.
The pool of communities, there was 4 of them. Courtney, Falcon Beach, Parksville, and Sydney were chosen, I believe, back in 2008, and they were chosen based on similar size, similar location to Vancouver Island, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, so any further questions on that? So all in favor? And no opposed, thank you. And that the changes become effective 2023 after the next set of municipal elections. So motion,
Moved. Second.
any discussion on that? All in favor? All right, that's carried, thank you. So we will end on that, and we have correspondence. And this is from the Legion, and they're stating that they're having a scaled down version of the Remembrance Day. There will be no parade this year. And as I had indicated to council on email the other day, unfortunately, the people at the wreaths will just be a limited amount. So I'll be representing the town, but that doesn't mean you cannot be there as an audience. So this here, though, they're requesting approval for permission to restrict access on Church Street from Comox Ave to Church Street from 10:30 to 11, and to place no parking signs, use of barricades and so on. So, okay.
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Great, thank you. All right, and just gonna flip back up here. Okay, so questions from the public. Mr. Davis, would you like to?
I think maybe part of the quandary of being on council and reading board at the same time is that
Yeah.
I'm aware of electoral areas who have non-elected people who will occasionally sit, but I am not aware of any municipality having an unelected person serving in that role.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Then we'll just go back one and we'll get reports from members of council. So we'll start around the room, go clockwise. Councillor Swift.
Thank you. Really quickly, I attended the regular Filbert board meeting, and the good news is they are working towards actually producing a festival for next summer, and they're working out the details of that. And they're going to be having their Christmas shop where Santa shops event, and I don't know the exact dates of that, but it's coming up. I attended the CBRD board meeting. They had the final audit from the Union Bay Improvement District and the financial statements, so that's kind of all done. Indigenous Relations Assessment Report is coming in December, so we have kind of a preliminary report from Dillon Consulting. And Comox Valley Neighborhood Preparedness Program, they're producing a new guidebook with a step-to-step guide on how to be prepared in your neighborhood. And I think they've taken a 100-page document and made it into 12 or 15 pages, and then they're producing a brochure. So that should be coming out soon. And then just an annual check-in meeting with the CVRD chair. And that's my report.
Thank you. And Councillor McGowan?
Hello, I attended a CAMS board meeting, work on the Mackling manuscript that he wanted to publish is coming along very nicely. And we also they got a storage space that they were able to clear out a lot of stuff from the back. So they're actually able to do some work back there and move things around. And they wanted to express their sincerest thanks to the parks guys that came and helped them do that. I attended a community justice meeting, food policy council, and municipal food supply meetings. Social planning brown bag lunch was yesterday, I believe, and we got updates from all sorts of places. Let's just say there's wonderful things happening in the valley. And I received my local government leadership academy level 1 certification. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I also attended the CVRD board meeting, but I think Councillor Swift did a good job of explaining that. I also today went to that hospitality roundtable, and much of that was to do with the plight of the restaurant industry and the fact that they're having such a hard time getting employees. And so they're looking at immigration as a way of dealing with some of that, and just the pitfalls, housing. You know, we had quite a discussion on Airbnbs and how Airbnbs are taking up a lot of the rental stock, and so there was a lot of that. But you know, they were telling stories about how, you know, if you have somebody needed a dishwasher at their place, they advertised couldn't get one, and some of the other people took a day off and came down because there's just such a shortage of workers. And one of the problems that they're saying is because of COVID, a lot of people got the government money, but then kind of looked at their life situation and decided it was time to move into a different realm. So a lot of those people aren't there anymore. You can even call on. So that's an ongoing discussion, but there's you know, it's a bit of a problem for them. And of course, they recognize the fact that when you go down to the restaurant, it's not open. You know, sometimes you'll come back again. So it's a bit of a problem. And I think I mentioned earlier, I talked to the Brooklyn Creek people regarding their pathway, and we can discuss that more at our next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bissinger.
Sure, thank you. Attended the community justice meeting, and they were going over the campaignola events that were really successful. And as well, they've got a AGM coming up on the 26th of November. Attended the solid waste advanced technology meeting. So we got an update on the Chester facility of the Sustain company, which is basically a waste energy. So they're going to start the 1 year of monitoring starting in January, because they're expected to have 3 months of continued operations. And it looks like they're shifting their output to more of like a bio fertilizer and feedstock. So that was, or seems promising. So we'll see after the year of monitoring by our consultant. And as well from the also attended the solid waste meeting, where the board voted in favor to write a letter to the province and MOTI to add waste receptacles at beach areas, which is mostly just north of the Oyster River, because I think CVRD takes care of the beaches in our area. And they're looking at extended producer responsibility. So mattresses, e-waste, including like batteries from like electric vehicles, and more compressed canisters as returns. And also just to note that National Day of Truth and Reconciliation will be observed starting next year, so September 30th, 2022 at the waste management facility. And also attended the BIA Halloween event, which is pretty spooky.
Spooktacular. Councillor Minions.
Attended the waste management meeting, which Councillor Bissinger has reported back on. Attended the VHA COVID-19 update meeting, which is probably going back about a week, but they just wanted to kind of give some key messaging around continuing to uphold safety, as numbers aren't really going down greatly. So they said keeping it front in mind in our meetings and just everywhere we're going. That day, which was again about a week ago, they had 22 ICU cases on Vancouver Island. which 100% were not vaccinated. So just continuing that message that the vaccinations are working and that the hospitals have people in ICU that unfortunately have not been vaccinated, and that there'll be more messaging coming down and kind of updated policies on what we can do in our municipalities. Attended a mayor's update meeting, or mayor or not, and most of the communities were really stressing that housing is just the biggest crisis on people's plates. So we had talked to Jordan, CEO Jordan, about how BC Housing could be giving more granting opportunities similar to Aspen, where there's kind of three-way projects, and also that more grants are needed for renovating buildings. So it's not just new build, but looking at housing solutions through grants. Today I attended the Forestry Modernizing Forestry Policy, which was a 2-hour meeting put on by UBCM and BC Forestry. There's one today and one Friday. It was interesting, although a lot of topics that we don't have necessarily directly in the town of Comox, with like timber starts and value added solutions and a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about here. So kind of interesting to see what other communities on Vancouver Island are really inundated with right now, with the announcements yesterday about deferring of old growth. And the BIA Halloween event, just kudos to BIA, because it seemed like to be at least 2 times busier than past years by the street shutdown and just the amount of work they had, performers, the DJ, and it was really fun. And I think we saw almost everybody there.
Yeah, thanks. So for myself, I did attend a BIA monthly meeting, and the BIA Halloween event that was on Saturday, and it was a really great event. Good for them. Tonight they're having their AGM, so we'll see if there's a new executive on there and maybe some new members. I attended in the council chambers here meeting with the exiting XL Career school owner and the new person, Bisman Aurora. They some folks from the Lower Mainland bought into it, and they have some great plans of expanding it. One of the things that I did ask them was about employee housing, and they said that that is on their radar. You know, we talked about the challenges here in the valley, and they are very aware of that. So as they bring potential new staff in from out of country and also students, they do need to have some housing. I had a winter agencies meeting. This was with RCMP, the other municipalities. This was hosted by Main Road, and just talking about what happens when we get snow and who's priority. And my house is not a priority, unfortunately. I thought that was one of the perks, but no, it's not. But yeah, that was a good meeting. Attended the Legion for the first Poppy presentation, which is always an honor. I met with a resident last night who talked about the environment and is heading over to the COP26, I think tomorrow, and how she has some extensive experience in the Arctic. And so I do at some point hope to bring her and speak to all of us. And Councilor Bissinger and I were talking about some ideas with bringing some people down the road with it seems the valley is a magnet for a lot of really highly experienced people that are retired from certain fields and the environment and that. And I think it'd be good to host some of them, but we'll flesh that out at another time. Today I started at 12 o'clock and I'm still going at 8 o'clock. So that was at the regional district. It was an EOC policy group meeting. There's a tabletop exercise there, and it started off the pitfalls of where we were as a group with the start of COVID and spokesperson roles and who needed to say what for their community, and got into that. And then there was just a tabletop exercise about another potential disaster in the community. So that was it. It was a very well laid out from the regional district, so thanks to them. But I have nothing further, and at this time, we need a motion to exclude the public under Section 90 of the Community Charter. So